Are you kidding me? Another Xbox game is being announced by Bethesda and Machine Games. And I'm not talking about just any game. I'm talking about Indiana Jones, one of the biggest franchises in media. I mean, we all know Indiana Jones from the 80s and all the action adventures he had, and everybody here probably has seen his movies. And I love those movies, and a lot of them are from Lucasfilms and Steven Spielberg. But now we're going to be getting an action adventure games from Xbox and Machine Games that's going to be produced by Todd Howard, one of the biggest developers in the world, and makes some of the best games we've ever played. Now, I know a lot of people want to get into the details of this, and I do too. There's a lot of articles about them, and I'm going to get into everything to give you everything you need to know about this game and why it's being announced now, and if it's going to be Xbox exclusive. Because I know that's what everybody's wondering. Is this going to be an Xbox exclusive? Is Xbox getting their Spider-Man, aka Indiana Jones? Now, I know that there's a lot of things like IPs and licensing that goes into this, but I have a feeling that this was announced on this day for a reason. There was a rebranding with Lucas Games, and there's a lot of moving parts happening, especially as we get closer to Xbox actually closing the Zenimax deal. So everything's going to be moving around. There's a lot of people talking, and I brought everything together so we can understand exactly what's happening, and we're going to see where Indiana Jones ends up and just what kind of game and era this is going to be played in. So let's get into all of this and let's talk about what everybody has to say, because I'm super excited to see another AAA game being announced by Xbox and Bethesda. Talk about an acquisition that's going to be paying off for years on end and looks like it's going to have some immediate impact to the Xbox brand and the Xbox exclusives coming to Xbox Game Pass. But first, like always, if you like the video, hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. So the first thing I want to talk about is the tweet that Bethesda put out this morning. They went straight into the news and talked about the unannounced Indiana Jones game and confirmed its existence. Now, we all know this isn't a rumor. This is all confirmed by Bethesda, so I wanted to get straight into the tweet, as you can see on the screen. A new Indiana Jones game with an original story is in development from our studio, Machine Games, and will be executive produced by Todd Howard in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. It'll be sometime before we have more to reveal, but we're very excited to share today's news. So right off the bat, I want to say again, this is confirmed. This isn't a rumor. This isn't some leak somewhere. This is straight from Bethesda and straight from Machine Games. And speaking of Machine Games, here's what they had to say in their tweet. We're developing a new Indiana Jones video game. As huge fans of the franchise, it's a tremendous honor for us to create a brand new Indiana Jones game with a completely original story. We're very excited and can't wait to share more in the future. Now, we all know Machine Games. They made Wolfenstein: The New Order and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, not to mention they had their toes into Wolfenstein Young Bloods, which released about a year ago, and a lot of people didn't like it, and it reviewed pretty horribly. Now, I didn't like that game as much as I liked New Order and The New Colossus, because those games were story-driven, had great characters, great action, and were extremely brutal. But the one thing I have a feeling, and I've talked about on this channel, is I think Machine Games is working on Wolfenstein 3, and I had a feeling it was going to be out at the end of this year or the middle of this year, because that will put it at the 3.5-year mark or 4-year mark of game development cycle for that team. Because we have to remember, October 2017 was when they brought out their last game, which was Wolfenstein 2. Now, I don't know if Machine Games decided to do something different. Maybe they were tired of doing first-person shooters, or maybe they were just tired of doing Wolfenstein as a franchise, or maybe they reached the end of it. All I know is that they had to reshape this studio to make Indiana Jones. I don't think this is going to be a first-person game. I think this is going to be a third-person action-adventure game that honestly rivals Uncharted, because that's what this is. Indiana Jones is obviously the massive inspiration to Uncharted and why they made that game. Uncharted and Nathan Drake are characters that you can see coincide with Indiana Jones. There's a lot of epic cool things. He's almost like an archaeologist. He goes around discovering new cities and ancient cities and all this cool stuff that really Indiana Jones kicked off in his movies. Now, I think that's what Machine Games wanted to do. I think this Indiana Jones IP came up and they had an idea for it. So they reshaped the studio to make it something different. An example of this would be the Guerrilla Games situation, where they were making a lot of first-person shooter games and then went to Sean Layden and all the people at Sony and said, hey, we have an idea for a third-person open-world action-adventure game with dinosaurs and robot dinosaurs. And that changed the whole studio and really helped them go into new heights of where their quality was. And that's where Indiana Jones and Machine Games comes into play. I think Todd Howard is helping them produce the game so they could get their feet wet by working on something new like Indiana Jones. And that's where this article goes into details about the game, the logo, the company, and everything else in between. So let's get into the article and see what it has to say. Aside from the company's logo, the game will seemingly revolve in part around Vatican City with a plane ticket to Rome dated October 1937. And as IGN's Jordan Ullman points out, a map including the Sistine Chapel spread out on the desk. No release date, genre, or platforms have been given at time of writing, but one thing is clear, Machine Games will have plenty of ideas of how Indy can dispatch his enemies. Now, we all know the type of enemies that Machine Games loves to destroy. They have them in Wolfenstein, and you can brutally take them out with hatchets, axes, guns, shotguns, bazookas, everything you could think of. You're just tearing that whole faction apart. It's great. It's honestly like amazing. That's what they became famous for, is just dismantling people like that. And I don't think Indiana Jones is going to be like that. I think Indiana Jones is a little more kid-friendly, and a lot of people love that, but it's not brutal. He's an action-adventure hero that's really a lot of fun to play and watch. That's the whole point of Indiana Jones. You're going on this massive adventure around the world and seeing some classical things. You're seeing a lot of ancient history tied into the story. That's where the magic is, and I hope that this original story that they said that it's going to be original is going to go into detail in cool locations around the world. That's what action-adventure is. That's what Uncharted does very well. You go to different locations and see the world, but with the perspective of looking at ancient ruins or ancient art and then getting a history lesson as you're playing the game. It's a lot of fun, and that's where I think Indiana Jones needs to live in. They need to take it and respect the source material, which I think they're going to do because Machine Games understands how to make great games, and Todd Howard understands how to respect pop culture and everything within it. But now let's go into the exclusivity part of this, because we all know that Microsoft and Xbox are going to be buying and acquiring Zenimax, and the deal's going to be closing any week now or in the next couple of months as 2021 rolls on. Here's what the article had to say. With Bethesda soon to be owned by Microsoft, it's not clear if this will be an Xbox exclusive, timed, or full, but it seems very likely that the game would launch into Game Pass, with Microsoft looking for Bethesda games to be first, better, or best on Xbox platforms. The timing of this is great because we know that the deal between Xbox and Bethesda and ZeniMax is probably going to close now, and I have a feeling that they announced this game maybe because they had the deal in place before the acquisition, so this might be multi-platform. But from what we can see of Jez Gordon and a bunch of other insiders, they're questioning if it will. And I have a question too, because I don't think Xbox and Bethesda are going to be talking about this until the deal is done and they announce the game. Here's what Jez Gordon had to say of Windows Central. Despite the Xbox acquisition, I think Indiana Jones could be multi-platform due to Lucasfilm's involvement/licensed IP. But the fact PlayStation hasn't retweeted it yet could also be a hint to the contrary. For those wondering what Xbox/PC exclusivity, we'll have to wait and see. Now, this is where things get interesting because Lucasfilm Games had a rebranding a couple days ago, if not like 2 days ago. So this does come after they started making some announcements and some changes to their IPs. Maybe they are licensing out a lot of their Lucasfilm's IPs to people to have exclusive games like Xbox and Bethesda, which is something that the article mentions here. Lucasfilm Games was announced as a returning brand yesterday, which will seemingly cover games made by multiple developers in the Star Wars galaxy and beyond. This is clearly the beyond part. Lucasfilm Games is now the official identity for all gaming titles from Lucasfilm, read a statement, a name that encompasses the company's rich catalog of video games and its eye towards the future. We'll also be getting a new Indiana Jones movie in 2020, which will conclude the character's story. It's due to be directed by Logan's James Mangold. Now, this is where I think everything's going to be coming into place. I think 2022, when the movie releases, they'll start to market the game a lot more and have it maybe released near the movie, because we know that this franchise is huge. And what's the main purpose of making a movie and a video game? It's to make more money. And that's what they're going to do with this. I feel like Xbox is going to make this exclusive to their platform and put it on Game Pass day and date. So if it does go on PlayStation, it could be charged $80 or more, because that's what you have to do on PlayStation. You don't have a subscription service that puts all first-party games there, so you don't have to spend that much money. That's the good thing about Xbox Game Pass, and I think Xbox is going to be using that to its advantage. Now, adding big names like Todd Howard on this is pretty awesome, because Indiana Jones deserves the attention to detail that Todd Howard and his teams usually put into their games. So let's hope that Machine Games can knock this out of the park, because I have a feeling that this is going to be a massive game, and it's finally going to be something that Xbox has been missing for a very long time, a third-person action-adventure game. Now, don't take my word for it. Nothing has been announced. We don't know if it's third-person. We don't know what it's all about, but I have a feeling that this is what this game is made for, and Xbox just got the biggest action-adventure character in the world in Indiana Jones. Talk about going head-to-head with Nathan Drake and Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. That's where Indiana Jones belongs, and I'm so happy we're finally going to get an awesome game from Indiana Jones in that world. But enough of what I think, let me know what you think about this. Do you think that Xbox is going to make this exclusive to Xbox Game Pass? Do you think Machine Games could pull off an action-adventure third-person viewed game? Is this going to be action-packed adventure where we go around the world? Is this a direct response to Uncharted and all those games that have been coming out for years now? Do you think Xbox knows that they're missing an action-adventure game in their first-party library? Can Todd Howard make this game along with Starfield and Elder Scrolls? How many games is Bethesda going to bring out every year? I mean, this is insane. And how many games can Xbox bring out every single year? Do you think this game is coming to PS5? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamertag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. Right now, I'm still playing a lot of Call of Duty. Man, that game is so addicting. I'm loving the multiplayer. I'm playing a bunch of zombies, and I've gotten through a lot of the campaign, just kind of achievement hunting and taking people out, playing it on the hardest difficulty. That game's a lot of fun, and honestly, it looks insane on the Series X and my OLED TV. I love it. And I'm also playing Next Machina and, of course, Rocket League. I know, Rocket League is a lot of fun. I have to admit, I've been playing a lot of ranked, trying to get to champion. I'm Diamond 2 right now in threes, and I think I'm Diamond 1 in duos. So I'm just having a lot of fun with Rocket League because I love playing competitive games, especially when they're this skill-based, which Rocket League is. And after all of this, I think I'm going to be playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and a bunch of other games, maybe even Uncharted Lost Legacy. That's the only Uncharted I haven't played, so I might jump into that now because I have this little hype for action adventure after this announcement. But let me know what you're playing. Are you playing on your PS5, your Xbox Series X, your PC, your Switch, whatever you're playing on? Let me know the game you're playing because I love talking about games, and that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about our favorite hobby in the world, which is gaming. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.